The pharmaceutical industry has been changing, but not necessarily at the same rate as industries which have faced even greater threats to their existing business model: music, film, newspapers, and lots of the B2C businesses that we see. So is innovation a direct correlation between that threat to the existing business model, and therefore, given that, as you said, in many areas the pharmaceutical business model is still intact, are we genuinely going to see the change that we need from a patient point of view?
That's a very interesting question and a scary one, because the traditional players in a lot of these industries, particularly in the music industry, are not the ones who are doing the most innovation. They're being squeezed out and replaced. The major record labels are being replaced in many respects by organizations like Live Nation. So clearly, in that case, these major shifts didn't lead the existing players to innovate; they led them to be replaced. I don't think that's going to happen in pharma. I really don't, for a number of reasons. First of all, the shifts in something like music were effectively technologically oriented in the beginning, but fundamentally led to changes in the expectations and behavior of consumers. Okay, it's not MP3s that really pushed EMI and Sony and the big music industry players into a hard place. It's the fact that those changes in technology led to a distinct impression on the part of consumers that music should be free, in which case they didn't have a business model to respond with it. Okay? In pharma, one way or the other, we don't see that. We don't see a major underlying technical innovation that's changing things. What we see is a natural shift as certain blockbuster type products lose their patents, coupled with changes in legislation and pricing, right? And a lot of these things that are pushing down, as we mentioned before, response curves with respect to frequency applied to physicians, and that are leading pharma to need to look for something else. So I think pharma has more time and to react than newspapers, certainly the music did. The question is, what are they going to do with that time?
Now, one of the companies that you have created is Observia, which has begun very well in France and now moving beyond. And I know that you're focusing on adherence there. We haven't really heard the word adherence mentioned by all of the people who profess to prioritize patients within their organization. What's the issue there? Are people not seeing the connect between that and the business model?
That's a really good question. I would tend to say in general they don't. I mean, one of the things that we've been saying to pharma for a long time, adherence should be a fundamental part of your marketing plan, right? Think about it. Years and years ago, pharma marketing plans would start analysis with market share. They'd say, here's a market size, and here's the share we have. Now let's take a look at what we're doing with our customers defined purely as physicians, prescribers, and in order to increase our market share. And that was how marketing planning was done. A few years ago, pharma said, wait a minute, the market size itself is a function of patient flow. So it's not just people who are being treated with this class, it's also, we have to start with people who have the disease. So we need to look at epidemiological data, then we look at the percentage that are diagnosed, and the percentage treated, and then the percentage treated with the class, and there. So we're going to go upstream a bit in terms of analyzing the market size. Great. Now, my point is, when you finish all that and you look at the market size, and the market is 5 million patients for 500 million euros, now taking into account the adherence rate, which for a typical chronic therapy in Europe is around 50%. So that 500 million euros should be $1 billion. Exactly where's the other 500 million? Why is it not being taken? Is it a function of persistence? Is it a function of compliance? How does my product compare in terms of adherence with the rest? Because I can try to affect my market share. I can try to affect the market size, typically known as a market growth strategy by looking at diagnostic rates, for instance, or I can also try to affect my adherence as measured in medication possession ratio in most cases, and that being broken down into compliance and persistence. And the point being that is just as valid a strategy as a strategy aiming at increasing market share or increasing diagnosis rate or increasing anything else. And I don't know, I mean, there are a couple of companies that do that. Perhaps not to that degree of detail, but there are a couple of companies that systematically, internationally, if you have your marketing plan, you're supposed to track these things. and you're supposed to address them in your planning process itself, but it's very, very rare. And until that's actually done, and that comes back to what we were saying before, that's why adherence is just good business. It's not just being nice, it's not just doing the right thing, it is doing the right thing. It's not just giving patients what they want, it's giving shareholders what they want, and until that's taken into account, it's really not going to be taken seriously at all levels of the organization.
So you're saying that with tracking, with measuring, with diagnosing the persistence, compliance, adherence issue, whatever it might be, that itself is going to create the change, or at least nucleate the change that companies need to make?
Absolutely. First thing, if you've ever been in a company that went through a total quality management thing, you went through Six Sigma, and so always the first step is measure. Measure, measure. I mean, years and years ago, I remember working at American Express, years and years ago, and we had a room with 250 people on the phone, okay, in Brighton, near Brighton, and their job was to answer the phone. And we went through a Six Sigma approach, and one of the quality measures was supposed to be the average wait time right on the phone. First thing that the consultants did was they said, we're going to put a tracker, like a digital clock type thing on the wall where all these 250 people can see it, that just had right now, what is the current wait time? And they said, don't change your processes, don't change anything, just put that on the wall. And it went down by something like 20%.